program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Well, the wildebeest herds are roaming across the open areas of quarantine. This is not the Masai Mara, but the northeastern corner of South Africa, and this is Safari Live. Ready. Standing by.
You are live.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our sunrise safari on this chilly, windy morning here in Djuma Private Game Reserve. It is a beautiful day, nonetheless, for safari, and, well, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got Craig, aka the Batman, and we are in the Wendy Mobile, and hopefully she will behave herself this afternoon, because it seems like Taylor, who is in Rusty this morning, is having a few little gremlin problems already off the bat, and, well, hopefully she's going to get those sorted out. They're actually not too far in front of me trying to fix things at the moment, so she shall join me a little bit later, and, well, the Mara's got some stuff to do in for TV, so it's just going to be us for the first little bit. So you can send through what you would like us to do, because it's going to be just me, and hopefully you'll not mind the sound of my voice over the next little bit. Hopefully it won't be all 3 hours and we'll be able to get Taylor out, but let's see how we go. And remember, it is live, it is interactive, so hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Let us know where you want us to go, what you want us to do. We were planning on trying to see if we can't find the Nkuhuma Pride from last night's update that they were moving towards our boundaries, so that's where I'm heading. But maybe some of you would like me to go somewhere else, and like I say, you can let me know where you want me to go. Now, of course, I was a little bit on the quiet side when it came to cats yesterday, but I had the most fun afternoon I've had in a long time. We had our terrapin on the hippo's head, which was highly entertaining for a long period of time, and I hope lots of you enjoyed that as well. And then we had the martial eagle with the steenbok kill. There was Chitwa Dam, which was beautiful, and so it was a really I had a good time yesterday afternoon. Craig, did you have a nice afternoon? Because you were with Taylor. Was it fun? Didn't have signal. Okay, that's no good. But I believe Craig was tracking a zebra herd that was actually a buffalo herd. He was telling... Hey Craig, was that true?
I just told you it was a zebra herd.
So, Craig was actually out yesterday and he went for a run to get his fitness up, because, well, if you're Batman you have to be fit and you have to be in good shape, and so he was doing his fitness to keep in shape and keep all his fans happy, and he then bumped into this herd of buffalo. But when I saw him later in the day when we were on game drive and I drove past him, he told me that he had seen a herd of zebra crossing into Djuma and that they were kind of moving around, and it turned out that herd of zebra was actually a herd of buffalo that he had seen. But Craig kind of got confused because I told him I'd just seen a herd of zebra, so it was quite an entertaining moment. Sorry Craig that we aired that, but it's the way it goes. At least it's a clear day. We don't have any sign of a cold front coming in, so I'm hoping that the wind will get warmer later. Now, I believe it's 14 degrees this morning, which it feels about 14. It is cold. Getting that little eye water that you get first thing in the morning when you drive in these vehicles, because, well, there's no windscreen, so as you're driving the wind's gushing into your eyes, and the cold wind often means that you get a little bit of a sort of teary appearance. So I'm not crying because I'm sad or anything like that. It's just I'm trying to keep my eyes open and track, and it causes a bit of eye watering from time to time. I don't know if any of the other presenters get it. I get it quite often. Craig, do you get it? Come on, land for me. There's now a bird that's just flown over our heads, but it's flying too far away now. And it looked like a little African goshawk, and it flew over in that direction, and I was hoping it was going to land on one of these trees to show you, but they fly so fast that it would have been impossible for Craig to have caught up with it. It's almost falcon-like as they come over, and they've got these sickle-shaped wings, and they can move really quite quickly. So unfortunately it came straight over. I was hoping it would land in one of these trees in front of me, but it didn't. It just carried on going down into the thicket and down towards the drainage line on my right hand side. But I wonder what lies in store for us this morning. Hopefully a busy morning. It would be nice if we can find some interesting things. So Chitty Chatty Meg, you want me to go to the elephants? Chitty Chatty Meg, I would love to go to the elephants. I really would, except that there are no elephants at the moment that I can find. I yesterday saw not a single track for an elephant in my journey around this area, so I'll try and see if I can't find some sort of sign of elephants. I would definitely love to spend some time with them, so I shall certainly keep that in mind, and if I find tracks, I most certainly will follow them. Now at this time of the day, the elephants should all be spread out and feeding at the moment, so they won't be too close to water. Maybe later in the drive when we start getting sort of towards 9:30, that's when the Ellies start going down towards a water source for their morning drink. So I'll definitely pay attention and start heading towards water sources later in the morning, and hopefully the elephants will be around. It would be nice if they were. I feel like I could do with a dose of elephant in my life. That certainly wouldn't be a problem for me at all. I'm just checking via tele-access because I was hoping that maybe, just maybe, there would be some signs of these lions, but so far nothing. Just Taylor's ostrich tracks. I'm sure Taylor must be having nightmares about these ostriches. She said to me she's been tracking them for 2 days, and then when I told her that they were seen at Chitwa Dam, not yesterday, the day before, she was not very impressed at all. So I think Taylor's been having a tough time with the ostriches. Hopefully they'll show themselves for her, because I feel like she's put in a lot of effort to get them right. Or to actually find them, should I say. Now I want to just check Sandy Patch, and then I'm going to check up towards the Buffelshoek boundary, because we know with the lions they often go straight across and towards Sydney's dam. So I just want to check up there first before I concentrate too much further south, because where they would have crossed would have been the plains. But if it didn't work, then decided to move. Often what they do is they go from there, they just cut straight up past Sandy Patch here onto Vuyatela access and straight north towards Buffelshoek boundary. So I want to check that way. If there's nothing there, then I'm going to come back down on Triple M, check that they haven't crossed there, and go down towards Impala Plains. And hopefully, what I'm really hoping for is that the entire Nkuma Pride is sitting on a buffalo kill on Impala Plains. That would be a perfect way to start my day. Especially given that I haven't seen the Nkuma Pride in a while. Now there's 2 Impala males that have forgotten that the rut is finished. Now Ginger, you say you wouldn't mind seeing Shadow and her cub. Well Ginger, it is a possibility. Shadow was south of us yesterday, and she was on the Little Gary Hoffman's cut line, which is not, I suppose, too far south, and maybe she might have moved into this area and come towards where we can find her. So I will go and have a look down there as well. And it is en route, well, not en route, but it is past the routes we're going to take to look for the Nkuhumas. So as we go towards where the Nkuhumas hopefully have crossed, Shadow would then be a few sort of meters down the road if she did cross. So at least it's all in the same sort of area, so we definitely can look. Now I was saying that these guys are still competing, and this is just leftover testosterone that is taken over. They're not actually going to be competing for any mating rights at this stage. All the females that should be pregnant are pregnant and or have mated, and so these guys are not really fighting over females. It's more just a case of jostling and testing one another's strength and trying to get their necks nice and strong for when they want to fight next year and compete for mating rights in the next year. Now I'm going to try go forward because there's a big guarri tree bush blocking Craig. There we go. A bit of a tongue twister to start the morning. Still bushes blocking Craig. Okay, well we're going to leave our Impalas there because it seems as though, no wait, maybe not, because they are fighting quite nicely now. Hold on. This is the problem when Impala males go after one another. They actually move quite a bit, but here we go. That's going to be better. And you'll see that every now and then they just drop their head, and then they kind of touch horns and they push a little bit, and then they separate. So the idea behind all of this is not to kill one another. It's not to try and stab each other in the face and the neck or the head or body. It's to test each other's strength. And so how they do that is they put their horns together and then they push one another for a little bit, and one will realize it's not as strong as the other and will then move away. Now you can also hear there is a bird complaining bitterly at me. There we go. Bit of dust. And then they look around us to say, what are you looking at? We're just trying to sort something out. Now the bird complaining bitterly at me is a crowned lapwing, and it's the one that's making the noise. So Holly, you saying maybe these two impalas have territorial issues to resolve? Well, not really, because remember that impalas are not territorial. They have an area and they'll have females that they'll section off when they're mating, but otherwise they do move. I'm sorry, Chantal, I can't hear you very nicely because it seems as though it's not coming through clearly. If you can just repeat that again. Okay, so it sounds like I can't hear Chantal, but I was saying that if they are fighting, it's not because of territorial issues, it's because of the fact that they're just trying to strengthen themselves up. It's not that time of year that they'll actually fight over a certain area and females. But listen to this lapwing go. Now, the reason it's making that noise is because I'm sure its nest is somewhere here with its eggs. And now lapwings have the most camouflaged nest and eggs, and it's really quite difficult to see them. So I'm sure somewhere here there is a nest, and that's why it's making so much noise. And you can see it's trying to lure us away from where its eggs or nest is, so as that we move and sort of get out of the area and don't provide any danger. They'll sometimes even feign a broken wing to be able to lure predators away from where their chicks are, so as to keep them safe. But they certainly know how to make a racket, that's for sure. Right. That was a welcome distraction, the impalas and the lapwing. Now I'm going to turn to the left because I don't know where that lapwing's eggs are on this right hand side, and I don't want to squash them with our car, so I'm going to try and leave that area alone. And while I do that, it seems as though Miss McCurdy has somehow figured something out, and she wants to say good morning to all of you.
Good morning, everybody. The gremlins are here and they're attacking us again. They're armed with spears carved from the wood of a silver cluster leaf. But never fear. Hopefully we'll manage to, of course, sort everything else. But I suppose I better introduce myself. Otherwise you don't know who you're talking to. Good morning again, everybody. My name is Taylor, and on camera with me is Sebastian. Now, I'm so sorry that we've been having all these issues. We're actually sitting with the car half open, and we've managed to get it to work for now, but who knows how long it's going to last for. So please keep your fingers crossed for us today. So we're just going to stay stationary at the moment. We're just going to appreciate some of the things that you can find out here on quarantine. It's beautiful. The wind, however, is just starting to pick up, which is not great for us, because I think as beautiful as what the day is going to be and as fair as what the temperature will be, I think we might have, sadly, a bit of wind today. But let's see if we can find these wildebeest again. They're being very rude. They're moving just out of sight. I'm also trying to shuffle. I'm scared I shuffle too much and then the gremlins feel as though it's an opportunity for them to attack, but they're hiding all the way down there in the distance, and they're moving to the far west corner now. The wildebeest almost seem to do the same thing every single day, unless they've been chased around by the lions or hyenas that we often see up here on quarantine. But it was fairly quiet last night. The only roar I heard coming from a lion was that straight after game drive. It sounded like it was quite far in Buffelshoek. It was quite a subtle roar. Now, I'm not actually sure where the wildebeest came from. I can't recall seeing them. I remember seeing them on the sunrise safari, but other than that, they were sort of, well, hiding away. I suppose they just go in and out of these drainage systems as we go along. But there's another nice open area where they'll probably head to go and feed just off of Zoe's Road. Actually, my favorite spot where I love to do sort of a tracking shot of the sunrise through the long grass and all the beautiful marula trees. I think that's where they're going there. But I think they need the zebras to be ahead of them, because the last time that I checked, and that was yesterday, I actually had a look around there, the grass was very, very tall. And we all know that wildebeest don't really eat the tall grass. They prefer the shorter stuff. So perhaps they're also longing for the McCurdy-hurdy, just as we are here at Wild Earth. We miss our fellow stripy friends. But isn't that quite cool, though? I know it's not always the clearest moments. Like I said, we are restricted to where we can go. And this spot seems to be a good anti-gremlin spot. It's because I drew a circle around the car and did all sorts of interesting local techniques to try and keep away the bad spirits. That's what I've been doing this morning. Sebastian had guarri leaves in his hand. He was chanting and doing all sorts of things. I think he was speaking French, though, at one point. Maybe that's actually what scared the gremlins away. Perhaps they don't like the Seb's stern voice when he returns to speaking, well, his home language. But there they go, one in front of the other. Also quite nice. It's something I love to watch about wildebeest, is that they always seem to walk in a long line, a train of wildebeest. And then occasionally the youngsters get excited and then they run around and cause havoc. But I'm sure the predators wouldn't mind that, the youngsters using up all their valuable energy. Now, hopefully Tristan is going to be able to find all sorts of things out here on this morning. Hopefully some animals have left him some tracks. We didn't hear any leopard soaring, except the one that, of course, we saw yesterday. No, we didn't. I was off air. I didn't have any signal, but we actually heard Tingana calling from the distance just south, so perhaps he'll pop up. But we'll see if we can continue fixing the car, and hopefully we'll find something else interesting for you. I'm going to send you back across to Tristan now, and he's got quite a tall creature to look at.
We do indeed, but it is departing us at a rate of knots, and it was perfectly silhouetted against the sun, but unfortunately has moved. Craig, I'm going to try and go back for you because I think it's coming closer towards the road, so that might help us. And it seems as though the giraffe are slowly but surely coming back and spending more time in this area. We've had a situation where it's been very quiet on the giraffe front, but I've been seeing quite a few tracks in the last few days of them around, so hopefully this will signify that they are coming back and starting to head into this area again. But isn't that beautiful, silhouetted against that sunrise backdrop that we've got on the eastern horizon? And you can see it's a young male, just by those ossicones, big, thick and bulky, which is very typical of the males. And silhouetted against that sun, it's immediately obvious that it is a male. There's also an oxpecker there as well that's busy combing through that hair on the back of the head and just getting rid of all these little parasites that giraffe do get. Giraffe often quite full of parasites, and so the birds are vitally important to help them keep nice and clean. Roshni, you say that's a beautiful silhouette. I agree, Roshni. There's not too many better that you can get. And also where he stopped is perfect. He's stopped right in a little clearing for us, and he really does stand tall above the vegetation. And it is very, very pretty with that sun you can see just rising over the eastern horizon. Look at that. It's almost one with the landscape, isn't it? It's nice also when it faces us because the ears stick out and you can see the birds on the side of the neck as well. And there he goes. He's going to start walking, hopefully, through that sunset. And what a way to start the morning. There's not many better ways to do so than with the silhouetted giraffe, because, well, that's quintessential Africa. When you think of Africa, you think of the giraffe lifting its head and the bird flying off with the sun in the background. Sabu, you're asking which giraffe species are found here in Djuma. Well, Sabu, we get the southern giraffe only, so just the one species of giraffe in this area, and it is called the southern giraffe. So that's what we see here. They're a little bit different to the ones in the Masai Mara. In the Mara, there's some other species that you get, and the reason why they're a little bit different is generally to do with their coat pattern, is how you can identify the difference between the two. Of course, with a silhouetted giraffe like this, it's going to be very difficult to see any sign of their coat, but hopefully it's going to walk up a little bit closer, and we will. And it seems as though it's going to cross right next to the car. It's walking straight towards us at the moment. Look at that, across the sun. Oh, absolutely beautiful. Now, they are probably one of the most elegant animals when they walk out here. They almost seem to have this sort of royalty in the way that they walk. Craig, do you want me to turn you? I'm going to try and turn just so that you don't get aerials and poles and varying other things in the frame, because Craig's having a tough time of trying to keep all of those out as this giraffe moves behind us. Now, come on, car. I suppose if I put it in the right gear, we can't blame the car if I'm not in the right gear, can we now? Alright, Craig, that should be better, and hopefully if it crosses the road, we'll be able to see it crossing. I know it's behind some brush at the moment, which is not ideal, but I'm hoping it's going to just walk slowly across and come out right into the open for us. It is moving. But I was saying that they've got this almost elegance when they walk. It's kind of this very slow, loping motion that they have, and they will walk with lots of grace to them. I'd imagine that they would be part of the royals if they were to be in the human society. They would be one of those that kind of ambles around in the parade and looks ever so stately as they go. But you'll see every now and then he'll walk over trees and bushes, and the reason he's going to do that is all just to try and help ease the itches that he gets from some of these parasites. So you'll find they get a lot of parasites between their legs and their stomach area, and so as they walk over trees, it helps not only to pull some of those parasites off, but there's a lot of itching that goes on. I'm sure some of you that may have been bitten by a tick will know that the itch that follows that can drive you crazy, and so these bushes help just to ease those itches, and you'll find that giraffe do it quite regularly. Being as tall as they can just walk over trees rather than having to go around them like some of the other animals, and you'll find that they do it regularly. But look at that. You can see now it's starting to feed. It's this time of the day that a lot of the ruminating animals will spend long periods of time feeding. And the reason why they spend long periods of time feeding now is because they know it's going to get hot a little bit later, and the advantage that they have is that when they feed now, they can fill their stomach up, and then during the hot part of the day they can find some shade somewhere, and that they don't actually have to worry too much about feeding, because they can then regurgitate balls of food that they've taken on in the early hours of the morning, and they can spend their day resting in the shade but still gaining nutrients by regurgitating and re-chewing what they've collected in the early hours of the morning. And you'll see they chew their food a lot more than something like a zebra, and they'll then swallow. Blue Raptor, you're asking if male and female giraffe feed differently. Now, there is a school of thought that females generally like to feed lower down than what the males do. I don't know if that's necessarily true. In my experience, as you can see with this giraffe here, that he is bending down and feeding on lower branches just as any female would. But theoretically, the sort of story goes is that the males like to feed at their sort of normal standing height, so they'll feed at that area there, whereas the females are quite prone to bending when they feed. And this is the school of thought that has been thrown around, and like I say, I've seen it disproved many times with males feeding as low down as females, and you can see this guy is feeding way down, almost below his chest line, which is very low for a giraffe to be feeding. So there really isn't too much difference between male and female giraffe in the way that they do feed. You'll find they'll also target the same trees and bushes. They're not really too fussy in that regard. They're not as though there's a different strategy because you're a man or a lady. So it depends on that sort of vegetation that you're going to have in the area that you're in. So places like this, you'll find the giraffes do feed a lot standing up tall because we've got a lot of big trees in this wooded savanna. In places where there's less trees and things are a little bit smaller, you'll find that they do bend a lot then to feed. So it's more area specific than gender specific. Yes, you are quite pretty. Mike, you're asking if the giraffe is the tallest animal in the park. Well, indeed it is, Mike. It is by far the tallest. A fully grown male giraffe is standing at about 5.5 meters tall, which is very large, and they spend a time walking around towering over all the others. An elephant would be quite big, and I mean the record elephant is just under 4 meters tall at the shoulder, but with an elephant, when it sticks up its trunk, it can often reach to the same height as what a giraffe would, but giraffe standing is by far the tallest creature that we have out here. Now there is a car coming past, so I'm going to have to move because I'm blocking the road. I'm parked right across the road at the moment, so I'm just going to move out of Texan's way so that he can get past me and carry on with his morning game drive. There we go. You can still see a beautiful sunrise that is just happening. Morning, Tux. So let's just go back again. There we go. There we go. Now we can see our giraffe again. So as I was saying, we just sometimes have to move out of the way so that the guys can get past, because they may not want to spend too much time with the giraffe, although they are stopping for a bit to see the giraffe, and we haven't seen too many of them around, so I'm sure their guests will love to see them. It is amazing how this giraffe towers over vehicles. It's a pretty cool sort of way of seeing their size difference from where we are. Ooh. David in Napa Valley, so from wine country, you want to know what is the tallest giraffe on record. David, I'm not sure actually. That's actually a very good question, and I would love to know the answer to that. So maybe some of you out there that may know this can hashtag Safari Live and be able to tell us exactly how tall the tallest giraffe ever recorded is. I'm really not sure, David, but I would imagine it must be, I would say, just over 5.5 meters, so somewhere in that area. But it'll be interesting to know exactly how tall these giraffe are. You can see the oxpeckers have all, well, not exactly how tall giraffe are, but how tall the tallest giraffe is. But our giraffe is now disappearing into the bush and is completely not visible. Look at how the camouflage works on these guys. You would think that a giraffe would be easy to see as soon as he drops his head, even though there is a big bull giraffe behind that tree. He's vanished. So it just goes to show that they do have good camouflage, and any of these animals with these spotted coats work very well. Good. Onward and forward, as they say. Now, I believe Taylor is out of her car. She's done her rituals to keep the gremlins at bay, but now she is playing around with what sounds like sandcastles made by nature.
That's exactly what it is, and well, if any of you know me very well, I love to let the inner child come out every now and then, and what better way to play on some sandcastles, as Tristan just said. Now, termite mounds are really amazing, not only because they house one of the most intelligent insects out there that really helps us when it comes to decomposing natural vegetation, all the organic matter out in the bush. Without them, there'd be a whole lot of dung and excess leaves and grass and all that type of thing lying around, but luckily they take care of that for us. Now, this mound doesn't look particularly active at the moment because it is winter, but if you look very carefully, you can see, look at all the dung. There's lots of bird droppings around here, and we've had many sightings of yellow-billed hornbills, red-billed hornbills actually breaking open this chimney when the soil has been soft. Actually, it's quite crumbly, in fact, and they'd get down and eat the termites in as well, and they do it to all the different chimneys. Now, I was actually saying, it's so sad we haven't seen any activity from the termites, but I have to change my mind there. You won't be able to see it, but right basically where the termite mound ends, or what we can see ends, and it's just almost near the base of the tires of the car, there is some really fresh soil. Actually, I'll get you a piece just to show you. The termites are not here, and it looks like something has been pecking here already. Look at this. You see that? That's from last night. It's still soft. Look how pliable it is in my fingers. It's mud. So this is the soil and the saliva mixed together from the termites and making little balls of it, and then starting to create these temporary tunnels that we always look at them on bushwalk where it'll allow them to carry on working during the day as well. I'm going to drop it now. Let me quickly put it on the ground. So that's that. So they're working down over here. Sometimes the termites don't even have to go out and look for food. Sometimes the food comes to them. Like, for example, look at all this wildebeest dung that's just down over here. Not particularly fresh, a couple of days old now. This is great for them. They'll definitely take this down into their mounds and add it to the fungus gardens, which they develop. But of course, what about a leaf? Can do exactly that. All these bits of grass, they will start collecting them. There's lots of fallen trees around here, so if they're craving a bit of timber, well, then they can go for that too. So not only is it amazing the life that comes from a termite mound, but look at all the different types of plants that start to grow on it. We've got a young apple leaf just starting to grow here. Remember, termite mounds are nutrient rich, almost like the soil that you see the ants pushing up when they make their little mounds, or even when an earthworm expels that excess soil. That is so rich, and it's so good for your garden. So you can imagine, why wouldn't it be good to grow, or plants to grow around? So we've got that. We've got lots of different grasses. We've got a young jackalberry also starting to develop here. Quite a few apple leaves. A sickle bush, not my favorite tree, actually not any guide's favorite tree, because you can see just by the spines on this plant, they go straight through the tires of our cars, and nobody likes to change a tire. There's even a couple of Weltherias here and there. I'm just looking to see what else we've got growing around here. And that's about it, but it's quite cool, don't you think, that so many different things will be around here. There's even some marula nuts. There's no marula trees here. Obviously the squirrels. Maybe even a monkey. Perhaps, probably actually a baboon, if you think about it, because where's a baboon's favorite spot to sit? Right up here. And look over their kingdom. And why not doing that with a bit of marula in your mouth? But this one, unfortunately, well, there's no use for it anymore. The squirrels have taken the nuts out of it, so you can go back to the bush. What else have we got over here? I was really hoping we could maybe find some termites, and it'll be a nice one. This is one of my favorite mounds. Like I said, we are up on quarantine, and I've had an incredible sighting here. When was it? A couple of months back, after we had some late rains, and this mound actually released a whole group, a whole colony of alates, and it was so beautiful with the sun setting down in the west, and you can imagine the silhouetted shot you got against the purple and blue and orange sky with all these alates flying around, the sounds that you got to hear too. So hopefully we'll be able to come and see something like that again, and I reckon it'll be a good spot to see the hyenas, seeing as though they're denning so close, and they love to eat alate. White-tailed mongoose, lots of them living up and around here. Jennets, we know, we always smell them around camp, and camp is not too far, so this could potentially be a hot spot. So do you see how much life is actually around a termite mound? It's not just a heap of sand, it's so much more than that once you actually start to dig a little deeper. Let's see what else we've got here. I think that's really it around this mound at the moment. Looks like the elephants have actually eaten a whole lot of the plants. They were here at one point too. There's quite a bit of elephant dung. Not much left of it anymore. It looks like the franklins and things have come through, kicked it open. Maybe even some babblers, hornbills, looking for insects. But it looks like the termites have also started decomposing what's sort of left of it too. Right, now we're going to try. Should we see if we can do it, Seb?
Yes.
I think so. Let me get plugged in. Let me get untangled first though. Chantal, how has our signal been? Fine. Should we risk it? Should we try it? Now everybody hold thumbs. We're going to start the car. We're going to try and move. Are we still here? We're still here. Okay. First gear's engaged. I'm taking my foot off the clutch slowly and I'm accelerating. It's like I'm giving you a driving lesson now too. Oh my goodness, I feel like I'm living life on the edge right now. Woo! Look at us go, Seb.
Yes.
Whee! Oh my goodness, Chantal's saying the signal's still green. We love you, Rusty. Please be good. Oh my goodness. I feel like it's too good to be true. How exciting is this? We're on the move, everyone. Perhaps we'll make it to Vuyatela Dam. Wouldn't that be nice to go and see if there's any birds and things around? Now, I have been listening to the radio, and I don't know what we did to make this work. But anyways, what I want to tell you is that I was listening to the Game Drive radio, and it seems as though Taxon and Aubrey are tracking some lion footprints as well as buffalo tracks. And yesterday, obviously, we were telling you the story about how the buffalo, Craig said he saw the buffalo coming from Sydney's Dam. They then crossed into Arathusa, and the Nkuhuma Pride were chasing them around last night. The buffalo, though, however, have run back towards Sydney's Dam, back to the Manuleti, and I don't know if the lions followed. But I was saying to Seb, I was like, those poor buffalo do not stand a chance. Those lions sort of block that route that they love to walk. There's a massive animal pathway, and we've seen them coming across from that side, coming from the north, coming back to the south and the west again. And it's like they sort of stand there, and I just think of Lord of the Rings, you shall not pass. It's what the lions, I feel like, are saying to the buffalo all the time. And then some of them slip through, and then unfortunately the others end up getting chased around. But we're waiting for the return of the buffalo. Now I can hear lots of crowned lapwings. Maybe we'll be lucky enough to see a crowned lapwing. That's another type of nest we need to start keeping an eye out for. See, none of the birds want to stay put. Every time I get close enough, they start flying away. But this area is typically littered with those crowned lapwings. Maybe we'll find the odd mongoose. There's lots of active termite mounds at the mongooses. Mongoose. We had this discussion the other day, and I can't remember. I think it was mongoose. We came to the conclusion. No, that was hippopotamus versus hippopotami. Let's go around here. We're just going very slowly, as well. We're not going to be racing anywhere today. And I'll start checking. I'm just scanning some of these termite mounds to see if any of the dwarf mongoose have woken up yet. Because they should be, theoretically, it's the time of the morning now where they should be waking up and saying hello. Oh, look at... Okay, it seems as though the gremlins are jumping on board here, so before we disappear, let's go back across to Tristan.
Well, I'm sorry, Taylor. You'll have to do something else other than your circle ritual. Maybe you'll have to ask Rexon or Herbie or somebody what else we can do to get rid of these gremlins out of Rusty. It seems as though they are firmly attached. Now, I've done the gates, up to the gate, and the Nkuhuma Pride has crossed back into Manuleti, so they literally just came up through Simbambili, crossed over right at the gate itself towards Sydney's Dam, and then straight north into Manuleti. So I don't know what's going on and why they are avoiding Djuma as much as they are at the moment. It seems as though every time they're just kind of cutting that corner and going in and out from there. So hopefully, maybe tonight or tomorrow, they'll be back our side. We also, while we were sitting with our giraffe, I had my radio off and we missed a leopard. I don't know if it was male or female, but apparently it was seen while we were with the giraffe, and it quickly then scuttled into Simbambili. So it seems like things are going the wrong way this morning. Hopefully they'll come back this side. I did check for that leopard coming back onto Triple M, but there was no sign. Although, what is this? I see tracks here. What is this for? I think this is our tracks for our Nkuhuma Pride. Indeed it is. Here's the tracks for the Nkuhuma Pride going straight northwards on this road. Now, I wonder how this has worked, because they've kind of walked up this way, and I can hear a Franklin alarm calling in front here. But their tracks popped out near the gates from the Simbambili side, and I didn't see any other tracks. I just want to see how and where, because this Franklin is quite upset. That's why the Franklin's upset, is because there's a bird of prey that is busy flying away from us straight down the road, basically. Oh no, it's gone now. Sorry, Craig. There it is. You can just see it. It looks like an African hawk eagle that's flying down the road, although it didn't seem quite right. I just want to see if it's not going to land in front of us. I'm going to try and see if I can't find it. The lion tracks go off towards Impala Plains, and I'm pretty sure they're the same tracks up at the top. I just want to try and quickly see. It landed. You can see actually the lions hunted the buffalo here last night. So here is where the buffalo tracks are in front. you can actually see their dung and the tracks, and I can see the tracks of the lions also here. So they were chasing buffalo here last night. This must have been well after we finished drive that they were chasing, and those buffalo are moving quite quickly, and I can see the tracks all over here for the lions going around. So it seems as though they had a go at the buffalo, and maybe the buffalo unfortunately got away from them. I wonder if these buffalo aren't still around, because these tracks actually look quite good. And I wonder if they're not just hanging around somewhere in this open area. But you can see they were running here, and I don't see any lion tracks on top, but the tracks of the lions came around into this open section and open clearing. So maybe they were trying to sort of encircle these buffalo in this area. As you can see, the buffalo kept running northwards. I'll try to see if I can't find these buffalo, because they might still be hanging around in this area. There was nothing that I saw crossing over back into Arathusa or Sumambili side, so maybe, just maybe, they're still here. But what must have happened with these lions is they must have gone all the way around and then come out at the top between Vuyatela Access and Triple M, and that's why we didn't pick up their tracks until now, coming in and going around. But I'm a little bit sad happy for the buffalo, but a bit sad for the Nkuhuma Pride. I was hoping the Nkuhuma Pride was going to get a buffalo meal. It was really what they need, is a really good big meal to help them settle down. Now our bird of prey was here, and it's just flown off again. It seems as though it's a little bit little shy. And did it land again, Craig? There it is, straight in front. No, that's a bit big for a go-away bird, Craigie, I think. Let's see if I can see with binoculars what you are. Yes, African hawk eagle, I was right to start with. And that's why the Franklins were complaining so much, because African hawk eagle's main food item is a Franklin. And so that's what they would have gone after the most. And there it is sitting. And what's interesting about this is that there's only one. Generally they travel in pairs together. They are a monogamous species, so once they pair together they stay together for life, and they'll actually cooperatively hunt, which is really interesting. So what you'll find is one bird will come down and stoop and basically flush francolins and guinea fowls out of the brush, and then the other one is on standby, and as they flush, that other one swoops in and grabs them on the wing. So they do hunt using one another, which is really very interesting. But it seems as though this African hawk eagle is a little on the shy side, because I'm trying to get a little bit closer to it, but it keeps flying as we get closer. But I still want to head forward, because I want to follow these buffalo tracks a little bit longer and just see where they go. I'm hoping that maybe this buffalo ended up lying down somewhere here for the night. Once the lions passed and went past them, they might have just decided, okay, we're going to rest here for now. Now I believe Taylor has made her way down to Gowrie Dam, and it sounds like she may have found one of our prettier antelopes, albeit common.
And they're having a drink too, Tristan. Look at that reflection. It's like glass this morning. Even though I said earlier the wind is just starting to pick up, when you're down at Vuyatela Dam, you're very lucky. The wind, of course, is something that you're sheltered from, but they're very cold and they look a little bit on the nervous side. I don't know if that's because they're worried about predators or if they're worried about getting stuck in the mud. That's definitely something that the animals are going to have to keep at the back of their mind coming into the dry season, when we don't get rain and everything starts drying up. Something that we often see, which is quite sad, and it's typically at this time of the year, is animals getting stuck in the clay and the drying up mud wallows and drying up dams. So you saw that Impala that's just finished having a drink. It was as stretched out as it possibly could be, trying to get a sip without having to put too much of its body in the water. Now, I don't know what these Impala are doing in front of us. Check out this, Seb. Tongue-tied today. They're just on the dam wall. Now, they're coming up from the drainage line, and they're coming here. So I don't know if they're going down to drink, but they seem slightly hesitant. One even gave a snort, but that might be an impatient ram trying to edge the girls on. But it's always good to be cautious. We always talk about this, coming down to the water's edge. You can see that female right in front. She's taking the time to stop, to listen, to smell, because she's going through a fairly thick spot. You see that? And it's quite open at the moment. But that little animal pathway that she wants to go down, she needs to make sure that she actually doesn't know if there's anything on the other side or not. And even when you're walking and you were to come through a corridor like that, it's quite risky because you don't know what you could bump into on the other side. But there she comes, very cautious, so she must be quite an experienced girl. She knows exactly what needs to be done to try and keep her herd nice and safe. But it isn't just the girls. We'll see the rest. They're going to come running down now and hopefully give us a beautiful sight of them drinking. The rams are on their way too. It's quite nice. So here we go. We've got the dominant females, the ones that will be breeding. We've got a couple of youngsters from last year. From the beginning of this year, the end of last year. And then you start to get the older rams, and then the big mature rams are also pushing in from the rear. And I think you can see different types of social organizations depending on the time of the year. I don't know if anyone else has seen that with Impala. Obviously during the rutting season, you see all the females huddled closely together with, of course, a big ram, and then we go and we see the bachelor groups of dominant rams that potentially could fight for a spot to mate with the girls, and then you even see smaller bachelor groups with even younger males hanging around. Isn't that a beautiful frame? They're all coming down for an early morning drink. Now, because today is going to be quite hot, of course, they will drink in the morning. They'll drink in the afternoon again. We often see the impalas coming down to graze where the grass is slightly greener. Now, I believe there's some questions coming through about Vutomi, and unfortunately I don't know if I can answer any of them because I haven't got a clue. I also only saw a post for the first time last night. Now, I've only seen Vutomi once, and that was at Cheetah Plains Pan, and that was months and months and months ago. Now, because we aren't really traversing on that area anymore, we don't really hear as to what goes on so much. So I haven't even heard from some of the Nkoro guides that they hadn't seen him for a while. There's actually no mention of it at all, and normally we chat about these things. Now, whether it is him, I'm not sure. I haven't seen the carcass, so I personally cannot confirm or deny anything, unfortunately. And I know it sounds like I'm sitting on the fence. It's just because I have a lack of information. But I'm sure Tristan and I will discuss this at breakfast. We actually haven't even chatted about it, and we'll see if we can get any images and find out and see if we've got a couple of mates that work at Mala. Maybe they can give us some insight. But again, it's like the incident with that hyena on Buffelshoek. We don't know who it was. We can only speculate. So we'll just have to wait and see. But unfortunately, with Vutomi going that side into Mala, if he did sort of push further south, it would be a very risky move for a young male leopard. That area is filled with big, strong males, and even there are lots of females that wouldn't take too kindly to him encroaching on their territory. It could have been natural causes. Maybe something like a snake bite. Maybe he got sick. If it is him, of course, we don't know. We can only speculate, and that's the hardest thing. But look at this amazing scene. Let's appreciate what we've got, the life that we've got in front of us right now. Look at all those impala. And without every single one of these impala, we would not have leopards. We would not have lions. We would not have hyenas. We would not have cheetah. We would not have any of those animals. Because let's be honest, impala are one of the most important antelope in Africa. They provide a food source for so many different predators out here. Isn't this great? But we'll stick with these impala for a little bit longer. It seems as though Tristan has managed to catch that raptor that got away.
We have, and we've got it in the most beautiful light. And it's interesting just watching what's going on here, because all the birds are sitting around and complaining. When you're a bird hunter, you're not very liked amongst all of them. And so we've got the grey go-away birds sitting, making a noise. There's a few hornbills that have weighed in from time to time. You can actually hear the grey go-away bird right here above me. And there we go. And they're the ones that are making that wah sound. And they're complaining at this African hawk eagle. They're basically saying, we can see you, we're not going to let you hunt us. And they're telling all the other birds, look, we've seen a disturbance and we've seen something, the same as what the Franklin was doing earlier. And so this poor African hawk eagle is going to have a tough time when it comes to hunting, because any other bird that's in this area knows there is a disturbance and that is probably going to be seeking shelter. And what you'll find with the francolins is that they'll go into thickets, underneath bushes, and into sort of tough places that birds of prey can't get. And you'll often be able to work out from francolins what kind of predator is around. If you find francolins sitting in a tree squawking, then you know the predator is based on the ground, and it'll be a lion or a leopard or a wildcat or something like that. Whereas when you see the francolins down in a thicket complaining, then it's a bird of prey somewhere. There we go. Listen to them complaining. There we go. Sorry guys, has he upset your morning, little go-away bird? Now the buffalo tracks have also cut off the road here, and they've gone in a more westerly direction, which is interesting because I didn't notice them crossing Triple M, but there's been so many cars going up and down. Just in the time that I sat with that giraffe, there must have been at least 4 cars go past us, so they might have driven over the tracks. I'll go around and just check one more time, see if I can't find these buffalo, and while we do that, let's go back to Taylor and that picturesque scene of those beautiful antelope in a row drinking.
There's the most hilarious noise coming from Vuyatela deck at the moment. It's one of the staff members putting the umbrellas up, and I got so excited because I thought trumpeter hornbills, because that's what it sounded like. It wasn't though. It was obviously the sort of rail that the umbrellas on need a slight oiling, but it definitely sounded like trumpeter hornbills. But yes, you are still with the Impala, and Seb and I were just saying how magnificent this herd really is. Oh, something's given them a fright. And that thing that gave them a fright was the crested francolins. Just Jewel, you say that you think Impala are underrated and you just love watching them. I agree with you 100%. As I was starting to say, is that I think we forget, because we see them so often, how important these animals really are to the ecosystem. Even some of the Impala are finding that umbrella noise quite interesting. Because remember, the predators, they can't eat grass for the fact that they can't turn the proteins and the carbohydrates that you find in grasses into the protein that they can sort of digest. So they act as that link between the predators and of course the vegetation that lies on the ground. But without them, I don't think we would have as many leopards, particularly in the Sabi sand. I'm quite confident in saying that the diet of most of the leopards for most of the year consists of Impala, obviously being supplemented with warthogs here and there, the odd zebra foal, odd waterbuck and kudu, youngster too, steenbok and duiker. But most of the times we've seen these animals, we do see them on Impala kills, and typically in the lambing season too. We see that quite a bit. Lots of different animals will resort to taking the young Impala. There's our friend the hardy-dar ibis also joining the frame there, probing about, doing its thing, looking for all sorts of tasty, delicious insects to feed on. Careful, little Impala. You're slipping in the mud there. Now, Robert, you're wondering if humans can eat Impala. Yes, we can. We can indeed. It's actually a favorite amongst South Africans, Impala meat. And the great thing about it, and I always say the nice thing, of course, about eating antelope out here in Africa, is that they're not all pumped with hormones. They're not being artificially fed, or their diet being supplemented with pellets and things like that. They'll live out in the bush. So people do breed the antelope species for food, and I think it is completely a whole lot healthier. And it tastes interesting. I'm just trying to think of the taste. It's I think out of all the antelope, Impala is actually not my favorite, I must admit. It's got quite a gamey taste to it. And now typically the antelope doesn't have that sort of strong venison game taste to it at all. In fact, kudu, eland, gemsbok, I don't taste that game flavor at all. They're all slightly different, even springbok. But with Impala I do. And I'm not a huge fan of it. Now you can see also Mr. and Mrs. Blacksmith Lapwing just on the right, and not happy with that Impala now. She seems to be upsetting everybody today. But we did see these two yesterday. We had a great sighting of them. It was quite brief though, of one of the lapwings grabbing a turtle dove by the feather and actually not letting it go. So beware. And I suppose that's why they're shouting out at the moment. They're saying, get away, move away, this is our spot. We don't want any intruders here. I wonder where they... Oh, apparently you guys have spotted the viewers, you have all spotted the Blacksmith Lapwing Nest. You said that it's quite close to the dam camp somewhere. It's obviously quite difficult for us to get there. We don't want to go driving around because I'd feel absolutely terrible if I were to have squashed that nest. So we'll just leave it. You guys can keep watching it on the dam cam, but maybe you can share some screenshots if you're zoomy next time. It's almost like they're doing a territorial patrol there as they're flying over the Impala. I was waiting for them to bop one of the Impalas on the heads, but obviously they're happy with them at the moment. They're not getting too close to their nests. So most of the Impala have had a drink now. It's just sort of these two that are the last ones, and soon they will move off into the thicket areas, especially if this wind is going to continue picking up for the day. They'll go and feed along the drainage lines, eating all the nice green lush vegetation. Though we were discussing it yesterday, I think it's a good spot to graze down here because we see all the nice green grass growing on the clay soil, which is really good at holding nutrients. You see them there. Some of them will be little forbs and things as well, but a lot of it is little bits of grass. Now, Aaron, you're wondering if there's any crocodiles in this water. I haven't seen any. And I know that with the dam camp being here, I reckon if anything, you would have spotted the... Is it a lion? Yes. Oh, tell Tristan to switch off his car and have a listen, please, Chantal. That didn't sound like a male to me. I think it's just stopped though. That actually sounded like it's coming from this drainage line between where we're sitting, and I know this is quite this is a massive gap, but it's a big drainage system, and maybe all the way towards Sandy Patch. It sounded like it was coming in that direction, but it didn't sound like a full-blown male roar. It sounded like the way a lioness would call if she was looking for the rest of the pride. So we will try and go and investigate in those areas as well, but just remember we are playing with gremlins this morning. Ah, okay. Well, we'll go and investigate. Seems as though Tristan's being tailgated by a civilian vehicle. And I know he doesn't want to stop and pull over, otherwise he'll just end up eating the dust of that car. As you can see, they're all moving away now. And the Impala didn't react to that call at all. They didn't actually put their heads up and look in that direction. It's so far away, they know that it's far away too. And if a lion were to come walking through here, they might not even bolt. Especially if they saw it or they heard it coming, they would just start snorting and alarming, and sometimes it seems crazy. The antelope will even walk closer, well, not even just antelope, buffalo do it, zebra do it too. They'll walk much closer and actually stand and say, hey, we know that you're here, don't even bother trying to get us because you're going to waste your time. Remember, Impala are very quick off the mark, and they can jump really, not just high, but they can jump massive lengths as well. They're the long distance jumping champions out here in the bush. So when they display and start jumping around and performing, a lion's going to go, no ways am I even wasting my energy to try and catch something of that size. But at least we know the lions and Gumas have had a meal. They've had some wildebeest, and I'm sure they've been supplementing their diet with the odd Impala here and there. Also lots of birds still calling. You can hear pearl-spotted owlets, you can hear crested barbets, lots of lapwings, of course. Now, Douglas, you're wondering, what is the common size of an Impala herd? Now, Douglas, it actually varies quite a bit, and again, it can depend on the different times of the year, but typically you find as we get into the drier seasons, the herds of Impala start to get a lot larger. They almost move together, searching out favorable grazing or browsing areas, and then they'll feed in that area, and once they've got what they needed, they'll move off to another spot. And in the summer months, when there's lots of green grass around, those groups break down into smaller ones. And then again, it depends on so many different things. If it's rutting season, you'll see big groups of females together. with some males tailing behind and one big male panicking with the breeding herd, hoping that no one tries to challenge him. And you'll see small little groups of rams. Out here in Kruger, I think you see massive herds. I mean, look at this group. It's probably not one family group, but they're all moving together now. There must have been about 50 or 60 of them. And I think in some cases you can even see up to 100. But in the summer months, I would say the average size of an Impala group is between 10 and 15 members, maybe give or take a little bit. Sometimes you'll just see just 2 or 3 together, but they'll join up whenever they can. They don't necessarily have the kind of ranking, especially amongst the females, where if you weren't born into this herd, you can't live with us type of thing. They sort of accept members coming in and out whenever they can. Remember, more eyes, more ears, more noses, the better chance you have of spotting a predator that would be trying to stalk you and your friends. I think what we'll do though is we're going to head and try and follow up on those lion calls. Maybe we get lucky and we find something, but I'm going to send you across to Tristan, who is looking for the animals that the lions like to eat.
Well, I was looking for them, but unfortunately they've also crossed back. I found their tracks again crossing back towards Arethusa side, so they're not on our side anymore, unfortunately, and hopefully they'll maybe come back again. They seem to just be kind of zigzagging across Triple M, but they must have had a tough night, because you could see in places where the Nkahuma Pride had chased them and ran after them, and there was areas where they had fought back, and it was all kind of across Triple M and trying to sort of see in that area. So I think they had a long night, those buffalo, and the tracks are on top of a lot of the other tracks, or vehicle tracks, which means it was during the night and well after game drive. Now, hopefully we'll be able to find something this morning, because it seems as though everything doesn't want to be on our side, which is the way it goes sometimes. You've got sometimes that it goes that way, and then the next time it comes this side. Now, sorry Chantal, you broke up completely. I know William, age 8 from Oregon, wants to know something, but I wasn't able to hear exactly what came through. William, you're 8 years old from Oregon and you want to know, will we find a nice group of elephants today? Well, William, we're certainly going to try. The elephants have been a little bit on the shy side, so they've been going other places, and they've probably been down by the rivers to the south and north of us, and that's why we haven't seen too many of them, because it's now getting very dry, and so it's much better on the river areas, because there's still going to be some nice green leaves and grass that they can feed on, and so that's why they spend more time down there. So hopefully we'll be able to see a nice group of elephants. I would love to show you a nice group of elephants and spend some time with them, but we haven't seen any footprints yet, and I'll have to check down towards the south, because we've been in the north at the moment, and so we'll go down towards the south and see if I can't find any sign of elephants down there. It's been interesting though how we had that flux of elephants in here, and there was elephants everywhere, and we literally couldn't drive a road without seeing an elephant, and now it's changed a little bit. Now we're really struggling to find them, and I've worked in this northern area for long enough to know that this is how it goes, is that you get these influxes of animals and then out again. So you'll have all the elephants in the world at some point, and then they all disappear, and so weeks without them. Same with the buffalo, same with lions. It always kind of happens that way. It's a interesting phenomenon in this area, and it's probably due to the fact that it's a lot of artificial water here as opposed to natural big rivers, and so the vegetation type can only sustain animals for a certain period of time before it gets completely hammered, and those animals got to move away and allow the vegetation to recover slightly before coming back. But we're on our new road, just looking for Shadow and Cub, for Ginger, because Ginger earlier I said we should go and have a look and try and see if we can't find it. So not only have we got Ginger's request for Shadow and Cub, well, William wants to see the elephants, and so I'm going to slowly head southwards on the new road and see if I can't pick up tracks for either one of those two. At least the wind hasn't gotten up like I thought it might. I thought we might get a serious wind blowing at some point. There was sort of times where the wind was gusting this morning, and I thought maybe, just maybe, we're going to have a day like we did the other day where the wind was just diabolical and really difficult to sort of deal with. But it seems to actually be quite calm, and I'm quite impressed with the sun kind of coming out. It's getting warm quite quickly, so hopefully it will be a beautiful day going forward. We also have reinforcements arriving today in the form of Byron and Ali, so we'll be up to 4 of us on duty, which will be quite nice. It'll be good to have old guns back. So those of you who don't know who Byron is one of our presenters that comes in, and we always joke that he talks about his guns a lot. Now you can see in front there's 2 Impalas, but both of these Impalas are still a little bit on the chilly side. They're all puffy and got their fur standing on end, basically trying to trap air against that body and trying to warm themselves up like a little jersey. Now the thing is if you've got these guys around, the chances of Shadow and Cub being around is very slim. And I've also noticed another animal that is just off to our left that is rather large, and we should have seen it, but there is a wildebeest just tucked away in our left hand side. Can you see it, Craig? There it is, just behind all the thickets, and look at that camouflage on the wildebeest as well. So it also blends in quite well in these darker grey areas. They've got that dark coat, and it allows them to be able to blend. And I'm pretty sure this is our male from the brown ivory tree to the south. He spends a bit of time in this area, and you'll have to be careful, boy. Don't go up towards Impala Plains, because, well, if the lions catch you up that side, you're going to have trouble. Unfortunately, though, the Nkulma Pride went north, so he can go actually up to our Impala Plains at this stage, although he's going to probably get quite a fright, because he's going to smell lions all over the place there. There were tracks going up and down, and then eventually going all the way northwards. Sorry, guys. Can I sneak past? Thank you. So, Nancy, you're asking if the new road is named New Road. Nancy, no, it's not. There actually hasn't been a name assigned to it officially yet. We're still waiting to hear from Djuma as to what they want to call it. So for now, it's just New Road. But no, its official name will come eventually. It will get a name. There was whispers and rumors of, I can't remember the exact name. Rexon was telling me, but it was the wife of Philemon, and because this goes joins up with Philemon's cut line, that's why they want to name it after his wife. So I think that's what the name's going to be, but there's been no official sort of naming process yet as to who this is, as to what this road will be called. And as soon as we do know, we'll let you know, because New Road is really not a great name for a road in this area. Now, talking about naming things and getting onto that subject, it's reminded me of the fact that last night, and I believe this morning some of you are talking about it, but last night I saw that there is belief that Vutumi, unfortunately, was killed down in Mala Mala, or died down in Mala Mala. I'm not sure of what. And I actually haven't seen the photos from the Mala Mala side, so I'm not sure exactly what happened there or what the situation was. I just saw reports of a dead leopard, and initially I think the report said that there was a female leopard, but I know that a lot of you have been matching spot patterns and checking and seeing, and are 98% sure that it is Vutumi. So, which is very sad news. It's not nice to hear at all, and unfortunately it just goes to show you how tough a world it is out here for a lot of our animals. So even the predators like that, and especially a young male leopard, is going to have a really tough time out here. You've got such a high density of male leopards in this area that if you're a young male that's branching out and moving away, you're really going to have a tough time. So it just shows you also how well Husana and Tumba have done to stay alive, and the fact that they've been able to stay within the core territory of the dominant male that is potentially their father, or is their father, allows for them to stay a lot safer. Vutumi, I think, has wandered a little far. You've seen an oriole, Craig. Let's try to go back for it. So I'll get back to Vutumi now. I'm just going to show you a beautiful bird that Craig has spotted. You can see sitting at the base of the tree there is a black-headed oriole, and look at the brightness of that yellow. Well, it didn't last for long, but it was spectacular while it was there. Unfortunately, it's flown away, I think, Craig. Now, so the thing with Batumi is I think he went slightly further than what he was supposed to. You probably find that maybe he had a run-in with another leopard. It could have been Kunuma, it could have been Shivambalana. We know that he was seen with Quarantine, and that wouldn't have caused him to run away, but he might have bumped into one of those two and then pushed further south into Malamala and then been caught by a male leopard down there that wasn't at all impressed that a little young male the size of Batumi was wandering around in his territory. Remember also, Batumi is a small male in comparison to the others. He had quite small feet even, and so unfortunately for him, he was caught out probably down in that area. I mean, I don't know what the circumstances of his death was, as if he was killed by another leopard or lions or hyenas or what the story was, but unfortunately it looks like he has passed on, which is very sad. And it just, like I say, reminds us just how hard life is for a leopard out there, or any animal in fact. And you know, it's never nice when you hear of these animals dying like this. The thing is though is that it is quite common in young male leopards like that. There's been many that have unfortunately been killed in the quest to find a territory, as is with lions. So while it is very, very sad, it is the way that nature works, and unfortunately when you've got a very high density of leopard in a certain area, this is going to happen. Unfortunately there's not enough space for everybody, and so either they get pushed into far-flung corners of the wilderness system that they're a part of, or unfortunately they meet their demise, which is always a very sad thing. Now personally, I've never seen Batumi in real life. I've spent a lot of time looking for him, but I've never actually seen him, so I don't really know his character too well. I know that James liked to spend time with him, and I know that Brent and Jamie all spent quite a bit of time with him, so I'm sure they'll be saddened to hear that unfortunately this little leopard has passed on. And like I say, it's never a nice thing at all when you hear about these things. It's always very unpleasant. So Rebecca, you say you liked Batumi the times that you saw him. Well, I believe there was lots of great sightings of him. I know that Seb even had a good sighting, I think it was with Jamie, of him hunting a terrapin when he first arrived. So I'm sure Seb will be a little bit sad about what's gone on. And you know, these things are never easy to deal with, particularly when a situation where you've watched a leopard grow up, you know a lot about them, you've seen them a lot of times, and it becomes hard to be able to just lose one of the not characters, but one of the parts of the bush that make your job as amazing as it is. And I can tell you that a lot of the times, a lot of the guides get very down and despondent when things like this happen. It's not easy to deal with. It feels like a part of what you do every day just gets taken away. And I mean, a lot of us know that already from just Karula disappearing. It's a big loss, and we were funny talking about it the other day, and Karula, even though it's been so long now, it's still kind of this hope that she does come back, at least with Batumi. We know at least there was a sort of an end to what happened, and we know what's happened to that little animal. Whereas with Karula, there's still this unknown, and you do miss her. You miss the fact that we used to find her lounging in the bowels of a marula around Treehouse Dam, and you know, it becomes difficult to deal with these kind of things. So unfortunate that it's happened, but at least we know, and at least we kind of have a understanding and an end to that story. It's sometimes makes it a little bit easier when you can close the chapter knowing what's happened, rather than just kind of unknown circumstances. And well, yes, there's not much more I can really say about it. I think it's one of those sad things that is very difficult for a lot of you to deal with, and a lot of us to be able to go through. I think what we're going to do is try and carry on with our drive and try and see if we can't lift the mood a little bit with maybe seeing something that is spotted around somewhere and help us cheer us up a little bit. What say you, Craig? Have you seen Batumi, Craig? You did see him. So So you see, I think everybody at Wild Earth has seen Vatumi and Quarantine besides me, so it seems as though it was... Both are animals that, well, it's going to be difficult with Vatumi to see, but... Shame. I feel sorry for him, though. It must be difficult. Like I say, he was such a small little leopard as well. It must have made life quite hard once he, Inkanyeni, went. And what's been interesting is just watching Inkanyeni, and I was speaking to Peter and Koro and Shanae, and they were telling me that Inkanyeni is looking very skinny, and she's moving around quite a bit, and I wonder if she's maybe stressing as to where Vatumi is and is now trying to pace up and down, and that's maybe why she's lost a little bit of condition as she's trying to seek out where her son is. I don't think he's old enough to have been pushed out by Inkanyeni just yet. You never know, maybe that is the case and that's why he ended up down in Mala Mala, but I think she'll also be looking around, and hopefully she comes right as well, because we don't want a situation where we've got another female leopard that disappears. I'm checking here around Shabamu because we know that Shongile and Hosana often like to cross in on this area and move around in this section, so just having a little look to see if there's no sign of them here, but it doesn't seem like anybody's been walking here other than some hyenas a few days ago, because their tracks are quite disturbed. They've been driven over by myself and Taylor, and looks like quite a few other vehicles too. The problem with this area now is, even though Shongile and Hosana used to hang around here, unfortunately the water's dried up, and that means that there isn't really water for these guys to drink, and so they'll rather head towards Treehouse Dam. So that means that they might cut just from the quarry straight northwards as opposed to coming around the Shabamu Pans area. It also means the mud is dried, so things like warthogs are actually not spending much time wallowing there like they used to, and that means prey animals are not around, and so it's an area that just becomes a bit more dead in the winter months as opposed to summer. Oh, there's a bird of prey, Craig. There we go. There's a beautiful Batelea eagle sitting in its dead tree. So here we go. And once again, just much like the African hawk eagle, getting a bit of sunshine, waiting for thermals to start. They know that with the sun coming up and a bright day that we've got, that thermals will soon be rising, and they can then spend their time using the thermals to fly and find food. The thing about a Batelea eagle is that they generally don't soar too high because they are trying to look for carrion. So they go along and they find thermal, get up a little bit. Once they spot some carrion, they're then down and spending time. And that's why they've got such a short tail. Like, in fact, if you look at this adult, you'd see its wing feathers protrude way beyond where its tail is. So there is no tail there. Those are wing feathers that you see hanging down. The tail is very short, and it means that these guys are actually quite unstable in flight in comparison to that hawk eagle that we saw had quite a nice long tail. The hawk eagle, given that it hunts on the wing, is going to be chasing and having to turn and having to be very agile while it's out in the air and moving around chasing its prey animals. Whereas this is feeding off generally dead things that don't move, so as long as it can get up and it can see what's going on from the air, it can then come down quite sort of haphazardly and doesn't have to worry about being too agile when it's coming down to feed. But Batelea eagles have got to be one of the most beautiful eagles in the world. This jet black coloration that they've got, that big round robust head with feathers that seem to flap in the breeze, and then that red face with that that yellow little tip to the beak, and then those bright red legs are very pretty birds. You'll find that also they have this white brown patch along the back area. And this particular bird we can actually sex, which is quite cool from it sitting down. So a lot of the eagles are very difficult to sex because male and females look very similar. But in the case of a Batelea eagle, we're able to tell whether it's male or female while it sits down. So you have a situation where they, depending on the coloration that is shown, will tell you which one it is. Now, this particular bird is a male, and I'll show you why it's a male now in the book. So if you have a look here, we've got our female and our male over here. The male, you see, has got a black wing structure, which is what we saw on that one, whereas the female, you see, she's got a very big white bar that you see on the wing when they're at rest. So you can sex them just by them sitting down, and then when they fly, you'll find that that white bar that you see there, the reason why you're seeing it is if you look here, the male has a very big black trailing edge, and so the white part of the wing on the other side is blocked out by black, whereas the female, you see, has got a tiny little trailing edge on her wing, and that's why the white shows up when she's at rest. That's a way to be able to tell. Now the juveniles are a brown drab color. They go from that coloration over there, brown and drab, and we're really lacking any red or yellow or black. And they go then into the immature phase where you can see the white bits start coming through, and then to that. But from brown to that takes 7 years for this bird to reach those colors. So really quite amazing that it has to get to an adult 7 years long. It's really quite incredible. Nice, but our birds of prey will be down on, like I say, it's been a sort of wet morning. There was quite a bit of dew this morning, and so you'll probably find that a lot of their feathers were a bit damp, and so they're drying out, waiting for thermals before they begin to soar and to fly and to start moving around again. Ooh, Nikki, you want to know what my favorite bird to watch in flight is? Well, I think I have 3 favorites, and I know that that's a lot, and it's not really how this game works, but, well, I'm going to just tell you about them anyway. So, one of them is the owls flying at night. The reason why is just because of how quiet they are. It fascinates me that they have these feathers that are constructed slightly differently to the rest of the birds out here. They have little fluting on them, and that fluting disturbs the wind rushing over feathers, and that's why they fly so silently. And so when you see an owl flying, unlike other birds, when you hear them flapping as they go, particularly big birds, whereas owls are just absolutely silent as they take off and flap their wings. So it really is amazing to listen to them. So I like watching owls fly. Then I like watching the harriers. Now the harrier family there's quite a few of them, and I suppose black-shouldered kite would be part of this, but they're birds that will sit and just hover in amongst or over a field as they're hunting, and so watching a bird just sitting in midair hovering is always quite fascinating too, and to see how the wings work to be able to balance them and keep them in one place is always cool. And the last one, just for a sheer kind of speed and sheer amazement of what goes on, is a peregrine falcon. So watching falcons flying and hunting and stooping has got to be one of the best things in the world. The speed at which they move is just astounding, and it really is a special thing to watch falcons in flight. So I think those are my top 3. Craig, what about you? Is there a bird that you like watching? Hey? In flight? No. Falcons? Eagles? Falcons is what Craig is saying. Oh, we've got another antelope species. We seem to be ticking off all of our antelopes this morning, but we've got a waterbuck over there, and we've got one lying down and one standing up. Both of these are younger males, so these guys have just formed a little bachelor grouping for safety in numbers. You'll find when they are big dominant males, generally they are quite close to females, and they'll be sitting slightly off from the females, but it'll be just the one male, whereas here these two are not in any way being competitive towards one another, and they're allowing each other close by. Now the waterbuck is a very easy antelope to identify. In fact, there's a third one in the back as well. They're an easy antelope to identify for a number of reasons. They've got these forward sort of curving horns that you see there on that male lying down. They've got a very big shaggy coat that is unlike most of the other antelope species here. They also have that massive white ring on their backside, which no other animal has out in this area. I can hear some Egyptian geese making some noise at Treehouse Dam as well. And we know that we're close to water because, well, we're seeing waterbuck. As soon as you see these guys, you know that there is a water source fairly nearby. They generally are within a few kilometers of water so as to use it to stay safe. Nikki, you say awesome. Well, I do like waterbuck too. I think they remind me of reindeer, which reminds me of Christmas, which reminds me of happy thoughts as a child. So I know that's a lot of associations to make from a waterbuck, but, well, that's how it is. I don't know why they remind me of reindeer. Maybe it's the long shaggy coat and the coloration, but that is what they remind me of. And like I said, that then leads to all kinds of other thoughts and Christmas and kids and being a kid and having good times around Christmas and spending it with family. So That's kind of why I like waterbuck. Also, they're big, bulky antelope, and I've seen these guys have some really interesting encounters with predators. They give as good as they get, particularly with the wild dogs. The wild dogs do hunt them, and particularly the young ones, but these males often will chase wild dogs and push them away with their horns and thrash at the dogs, and they can keep the dogs sort of at bay. Now, I know, Chantal, earlier you asked me about the wild dogs, but I didn't hear exactly who was asking about it. So someone was asking as to whether the wild dogs have been seen in the area and if they are still on Djuma. Unfortunately, there was no sign of them yesterday, and they then moved and went, I think, by the sounds of it, from the tracks. Safari Wildman, that's right. And I thought it was Safari, but I wasn't sure if it was Safari Dean or Safari Wildman. So Safari Wildman, they moved apparently north into Torchwood, and from there the guys have been trying to find them this morning, and signs of them around Torchwood, Buffelshoek area, but nothing here on Djuma itself. So it's those three, and then the tracks for the big pack that they had on Buffelshoek crossed into the Kruger, which is what I expected, because that would have been the tracks for the Investec pack, and they're denning in the Kruger at the moment. Now we're at Treehouse Dam. It seems as though our hippo that starred yesterday afternoon is not here this morning, but there are some beautiful birds drinking on the edge of the water here, and I'm trying to just check exactly which ones it is. It looks like our canaries, yes, yellow-fronted canaries, and look at the colour and the reflections in the water there. Isn't that beautiful? Bright yellow chests, and you can see why they're called yellow-fronted canaries. It's the right name for them. And there's one of the males with its bright yellow chest, and they'll all come and have a little drink at this time of the day. And you see how skittish they can be. They know that they have to be a bit careful when they're drinking, because they're very exposed to a number of birds of prey. Right, well, I've now been to Treehouse Dam. I think I'm going to go check Twin Dams quickly, just for the sake of it, and then maybe head up towards the hyena den. And while we do that, let's go across to Miss McCurdy and see how her lion search is going, and whether or not she's had any more sound for those lions calling.
Sadly, our lion search is going nowhere. It seems as though there were some lionesses calling, from what I heard. Maybe it's that lioness it's with one of the Birmingham boys. It's mating, but quite far north of us. So just out of our traverse, sadly. But instead we have found some birds, which we are spending some time with. And it is our noisy friends, the bush seagulls, the crowned lapwings, but there are lots and lots of other bird species around here. But this is a typically good area for these birds. It's nice and open. They don't like the thick undergrowth that you can often find spotted thick knees in. They don't mind being in the denser vegetation, but typically with the lapwings, you even see it, of course, with the blacksmith lapwings that hang around the edges of water. They do prefer the open areas, and I suppose that's because of nesting sites. Though those two species of birds have got fairly different requirements for their nests. Obviously the blacksmith lapwings hanging around water most of the time. They'll build their nest, well, their very basic scrape in the ground. They'll have them quite close to the water's edge, whereas crowned lapwings, slightly different. They'll also still have them out in the open, but they don't need to be right near water. And it's amazing because there's actually a whole lot here, but they're so difficult to spot them. I've actually only got eyes on this one, but we did hear some more. But now there was a group of doves just to the left of that little termite mound. You might see them moving through there. There must have been at one point, there's just 3 there now, but at one point there were about 10 of them. And I wonder if it's... have you got them?
I think they're on the other side of the termite mound.
Oh yes, yeah, you're right. There they all are. Look at them. I think it's a combination of males and females. Now, Mike, you're wondering what are bird beaks made out of? I'm actually not sure, but I'll take a guess at it. I reckon it's probably keratin. I think that's what their beaks are constructed out of, but I'm not 100% sure, to be entirely honest, if there's maybe another component to the keratin, but I think that'll be most of it. But it's quite interesting as to what's happening here. Obviously, we're coming to the point now where we're starting to see a lot of the birds really preparing nests. We're starting to see the courtship process, and we're definitely seeing the courtship process of the turtle doves. I just haven't caught it on camera just yet. So they've obviously come down to feed in the short grass, looking for little seeds and things that perhaps may have been missed, grass seeds or anything else that's fallen on the ground, grains. And I think that there's probably more females amongst this area than there are males. So the one in the middle he's got quite a thick sort of black stripe on the back of his neck, and I wonder if that's not the male, but we'll see if he does do a display at any point. But there's lots and lots of them. I'm trying to actually count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then there's some on the left as well, which I can't even see anymore. They move further away. Let me see if we can move a little bit closer. We'll just go further forward